So let's be real, Wuthering Waves never had the best endgame. It was actually one of the main things I felt like Wuthering Waves needed to improve on. I made a whole video about it. Yes, I was that English content creator complaining about the lack of combat events and stuff to do in the game, but that's not the point. They finally added new endgame, and I want to talk about the pros and the cons. Before that, I want to talk about the community. A lot of people have been all over the place with their opinions on this game mode. Everybody has an opinion, nobody seems to agree. It's kind of controversial. I was just finally happy to be able to glaze Wuthering Waves and not like piss all the fans off on the internet. So I went online, happy to talk good about the game. Turns out everybody hates this game. A lot of the content creators don't seem to hate this, but yeah, there's a small vocal minority on the internet that is absolutely livid with this game mode for multiple reasons, some of which are skill issues, but mostly it's deeper than that. So I guess I always have the opposite of opinion of the community. But anyway, I just want to talk about why the game mode is not that bad, and if you hate it, you have skill issue. And that's a joke, obviously. There's multiple reasons people don't like this, but you know how it is on YouTube. You gotta make a funny title. Here's the thing, I think if you like Tower of Adversity, you're gonna like this game mode, but if you don't like Tower of Adversity, then you'll probably not like it. Because honestly, in my eyes, this feels like an upgraded version of Tower of Adversity. Basically, you're fighting 4 bosses, and you're only allowed to use, I think, 3 teams, and basically, when the timer runs out, you have to switch teams, and the bosses keep their HP. So let's say your first team took out a boss and 25% of the next boss's HP. Time's up, you gotta switch to your next team and continue fighting the bosses. And basically it works like that until you've beaten all 4 of the bosses or you've run out of enough time. How this is better and improves on Tower of Adversity is how flexible the game mode is. Like, if I have a whack team that doesn't do damage, I can make up for it with my strong team that does do damage. Like, say my whack team only takes half of the boss's HP, my next team can make up for it by taking that boss and the next boss's HP if I sweat, you know what I mean? So it really adds this flexibility in your teams, and it really tests your overall count strike, not just the individual teams you're facing the boss with. I think it's pretty cool. The buffs are great because they offer you a wide range of buffs, so if one buff doesn't help your team, there's sure to be a buff that does help your team. Low-key, it might have been the better action to just replace Tower of Adversity with this, because honestly, while it feels like a better version, it does kind of make the game feel bloated with the same type of endgame. The experience does not feel that much different from Tower of Adversity. But one thing I do want to add is I feel like people are looking at this the wrong way. I feel like some people legit have skill issues and are complaining about this game mode when that's not the real issue with this game mode. Like, I feel like certain players who have poorly built accounts or maybe just started playing a month ago might try this new endgame and think it's poorly balanced or it's too hard or whatever complaints. But some of y'all have to understand this is endgame. Like, this is a layer on top of the endgame we already had, and it's made for people who are tired of the old endgame. So it's obviously going to be way harder than both of those, like Wuthering Waves and Tower of Adversity. It's the reason they put a 3500 score to gatekeep people from playing this game mode when they were too weak. I don't think people understand. You're not just supposed to be able to do this easily. And so I don't know why people complain just because they have skill issue. Tower of Adversity and Wuthering Waves are easier than the new game mode. So if you have trouble with Tower of Adversity, if you have trouble with Wuthering Waves, then don't think you're gonna get into this game mode and do really well. So I don't think it's a legitimate complaint to say, oh, this game mode is too hard if your account is poorly built, you don't know how to play the game that well, or you just start. When it comes to adding a timer to the end game, I think this was like the main issue that a lot of people have. They hate how a lot of the end game in Wuthering Waves and a lot of gacha games in general is like time-based DPS checks, because it's less about skill and it's more about how strong your account is and what characters you have. Low-key, it's more of a gear-based endgame rather than skill. I feel that complaint, and it's definitely a legitimate issue. I could understand people not liking the game mode, but at the same time, I low-key feel like time-based endgame in gacha is almost necessary, and I'll explain why. So the only real way to make an endgame without a timer is to make the bosses extremely difficult and like one-shot you, like holograms. And I'm gonna be honest, I fuck with holograms as much as the next try-hard sweat player, but at the end of the day, this is a gacha game full of casuals and people who play on their phone, and so you need the end game to be some sort of accessible So skill-based endgame is a tricky situation because not everybody has skill. So people will massively complain and hate the game mode even more. You have to balance the game mode with being difficult, but also so everybody can pass it, which is why they use timers, because if you don't have the skill to pass, you can always just raise your account's DPS by, either getting good echoes or paying shilling. And basically, the end game needs to be accessible for everybody. And at the end of the day, not everybody's skillful. What I feel like tryhard players should ask for from Crow Games is for them to reset holograms after every patch. I've been saying this since like 2.5. Just reset the holograms after every patch. They don't have to give us crazy rewards for recompleting it, but it would just be fun. Holograms are low-key the best part, and it'd just be fun to have a reason to challenge them again. I hold off on a lot of my holograms because I enjoy the content and I don't want it to be over. So I would completely love it if they just reset holograms every patch so I could just challenge myself to beat all the holograms every single update. Part of an end game is not just skill, but you should be geared up properly for the end game. And I know that's tricky in a gacha game, but I've seen a lot of people just mad that they couldn't clear or do well with half-baked accounts, newer accounts, accounts that lack a decent amount of 5 stars. And one thing I will say, it's kind of whack that we can't share equipment. I personally love to just build each character with their own equipment, but it is unfair that we can't like switch weapons or artifact or echo sets when you can in other in-game modes. So I wonder what the logic behind that is. But yeah, that's a direct issue that I agree with. But then you have people who are concerned that this game mode isn't as free-to-play friendly as something like Tower Adversity. But like I said, this is an end game that's more geared towards seasoned players, longtime players, vet whales and stuff. And the thing is, if you've been playing this game for a while, you're guaranteed to have some amount of 5 stars, weapons, or characters on your account. So I don't think it's a real issue that this difficulty is more than Tower Adversity. And like I said before, it is the hardest end game in the game. So obviously it's going to be a step above the other 2 end games. Also, there needs to be a way to like keep score, and the way they keep score in this game mode is that how much damage you do adds to your points, and you can only obviously do a certain amount of damage in a limited time. But if they remove the timer, there would be no way to like score keep the game. Maybe you could keep score by how far you could actually get into the game. Like if we remove the timer and make the bosses as hard as holograms, maybe the score would be how far you can make it fighting all of these bosses. But yeah, I just feel like that's a less accessible end game for a majority of the community. And even if I would enjoy it, we have to think about the overall player base. It's not just what I would enjoy. So yeah. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention is you can use demo characters. As long as you own the character, you can use them in the end game, like a pre-built demo version, which a plus is you can test out the character before you built them in this game mode. So that's a little unique plus this game mode has, just say. And on the end game, it's maybe a 7, depending on if you mess with this type of endgame. I know people hate timers. It's a necessary evil to me. It is what it is. Like, yes, timers are whack, but another thing to consider is it makes you engage with the boss in an aggressive playstyle. Because like if there was no timer, there's tons of methods that do not involve skill that I could use to cheese the boss, like defensive characters like Tai Chi, who has the freest parry ever, or running away from the boss. I had a method where I used Alto's smoke clone. He basically has a shadow clone as a skill, and I used that to cheese bosses at the beginning of the game that I had no business beating. So you'd see some pretty creative ways to cheese the end game if there was no timer. Maybe some sort of middle ground where the time is increased, but also the bosses do way more damage. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But I'm yapping. That's how I feel about the end game. How do y'all feel? That's all I really gotta say. Peace.